The White House is now assessing ways to convince American women to have more children, including a $5,000 baby bonus and federally funded menstrual cycle classes.
I often hear my married friends say marriage is hard work. Children are exhausting. And call me crazy if you want, but I don't want to work hard and I don't want to be exhausted.
You're going to be exhausted. Do you want to be exhausted because you are expending your energy into your children and family, or exhausted because you are serving a boss? You guys are aware of the birth rate problem, right? I don't know if you remember this, but I've been around YouTube long enough where I went to the Cancun Climate Summit and saw Ted Turner propose the one-child policy from communist China, where I know this sounds crazy to you if you're below the age of 25. At one point, people here believed that overpopulation was the problem, and it was a moral imperative for you to not have children. Yeah, that was literally the talking point up until 2014. How times have changed, because now we're below replacement numbers as far as birth rates. President Trump is trying to do something about it. Floated the idea of a baby bonus to encourage the ladies to have more kiddos.
The New York Times reports the White House is now assessing ways to convince American women to have more children, including a $5,000 baby bonus and federally funded menstrual cycle classes.
He even went one step further, presenting his new mascot for this campaign, Perpetually Pregnant Penelope. So that seems to be...
Okay. Wow.
Now... Let me explain to you. So the birth rate has been steadily falling. And I'm just going to talk about the United States because birth rates have been declining across the world in a lot of different areas. And you have some people who argue economics, but it's also hard to compare, for example, a place like China that had a one-child policy and the United States, or a war-torn country like Uganda. Let's look at why we are facing this problem in the United States now, today, in the year 2025. Our birth rate has been going down for a while, consistently since the 1960s. So to give you an idea, it's about 1.6 right now. What was the rate there before that? It was, I believe it was 3. It was around 3 point something.
About 3 in 1950.
Yeah, about 3. Now we're at 1.62 births per woman. That's below replacement.
Correct us if wrong.
Meaning we won't be able to sustain a country or have a nation if we don't have enough people. It's also how it's, the left, it's a brilliant ploy, by the way. It's a brilliant ploy by the left to import a bunch of third world labor and immigrants who will have children while encouraging Americans to not have children. There are 2 reasons, and I would say this covers 90+% of why today in 2025, from 1960 to 2025, we have a replacement rate problem as far as birth rates. The 2 reasons are feminism and neo-environmentalism. Here's why. Feminism is inherently anti-natalist. Right? The birth rate decline, it's right in line with second wave feminism. And what happened? This was the breakdown of gender roles. This was the breakdown of gender norms. It was, you can be just as good as men at what men do. And by the way, post-industrial revolution, those corporate overlords were thrilled to now have double the workforce so that they could pay people lower wages because there was more supply. So with feminism, encouraging women to go into the workplace. By the way, women always worked before that, but they would often work jobs that were flexible, where they could also be raising their own children as opposed to a nanny, as opposed to daycare. Then they were sort of thrust into, or at least told to prioritize, the corporate world. You can have it all. It's your choice. Okay, sure. So now you have 2 people working, keeping up with the Joneses. Women are empowered. And they're going through the life cycle of going to college, getting a job, and then thinking of settling down in their 30s, at which point the biological window begins to close. And this actually brings us to, for example, Megyn Kelly, we were discussing this the other day, where she said, women need more. Yeah, I think that people would like to have more Megyn Kellys out there. Women need role models. Well, hold on a second. If we want to fix the birth rate, do we need more? And this is not to say that she's not great at what she does, or that there aren't many women who are great at what they do in commentary. If we want to fix the fundamental problem in this country, the birth rate, do we want more female commentators, or do we want more mothers? Do we want more people raising their own kids, having more kids? Because the only way we get there is if we sort of recognize that there need to be roles of a primary provider and someone who takes care of children. What we're doing is not working. Feminism has been a huge lie, and saying that you can have it all. And then there's been, unfortunately, the reaction from conservative feminism saying, well, actually, you can't have it all, but it's a choice. Well, let me tell you something. Men have not had a choice. must be nice to have a choice. Oh, I can go and work and not have children, or I can be home. And unfortunately, we've denigrated the role of motherhood.
Yeah.
And we've placed so much value on income, on nice stuff. We'll get to environmentalism, but think about this for a second. People go, well, now in the new economy, women have so many more options than before. That's a lie. When you're saying I am foregoing, and we see this in the birth rate, I am foregoing family, motherhood, because there are more options. Okay. One hand, your option is family. Mama, seeing your child, that miracle of life. Or, of course, if you've adopted, someone who will go forward, not only continue your lineage, but someone who you get to see learn, grow, you mold their mind, you help them become an upstanding citizen who also helps the next generation. That. Family, more options. What are the... Family? Mercedes? A nicer house?
What can compare?
More income?
No, there's nothing.
More vacations? So we said, now we have more options, and you're foregoing the most important one. No woman on their deathbed says, I wish I went on more trips, and I wish I didn't have kids.
Right.
The opposite is true almost always.
And we've told each other this as men, and I'm sure women as well. When you get to the end of your life, men, you won't look back and wish that you spent more time at the office. There's a line to that, right, where you have to work hard to be able to kind of achieve whatever you're trying to go for. But at the end of the day, we all understand that family, that's the thing, man. Like being able to raise your children at home and not send them to daycare from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock, being able to help shape their lives and spend some of the most amazing years with them possible. That's the biggest gift ever. And you've traded it in for the daily grind?
Right.
Why?
Well, it's not made women happier.
No.
And so we've put this all on the same plane, the choices of family and stuff. And then you add another wrinkle into it, right? The environmentalism, which is, by the way, we have overpopulation as a problem. It's your moral imperative to not have children.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. But again, this is the cultural shift that we have seen. Feminism has promoted the idea of, you know what? Be a boss, babe.
This is a day in the life of a childless woman. I wake up at 6 a.m. I remember that I have no kids to take to school, so I take an edible, masturbate, and go back to sleep. I wake up at 12:30 p.m. and get ready for a busy day of doing whatever the I feel like.
We're dinks. We can go to Florida on a whim.
We're dinks. We're already planning our European vacation next year.
Dinks. We get a full 8 hours of sleep and sometimes more.
I often hear my married friends say marriage is hard work. Children are exhausting. And call me crazy if you want, but I don't want to work hard and I don't want to be exhausted.
You're crazy.
Sick.
Like I said earlier,
Lazy
everyone
then, huh?
serves a master.
Yes.
Right? If you're creating content, you have to make a living. Who are you serving? You're going to be exhausted. Do you want to be exhausted because you are expending your energy into your children and family, or exhausted because you are serving a boss? And by the way, there are many great bosses, and work is incredibly fulfilling for a lot of people, mostly men, just to be clear, mostly men. The division of labor, if you just take away technology, goes back to men's work and women's work really frickin' quickly, just to be clear, as far as hunting, gathering, war, building, versus the things that women are very good at, better than men. We're both good at different things. Add to that environmentalism. So you go, look, you have all this choice. Who really wants to be a mom? You want to be exhausted and locked down? Also, you should take this into consideration. Having children is wrong because something, global warming, I mean climate change. Here's a headline from NBC. Science proves kids are bad for Earth. Morality suggests we stop having them.
Morality?
What the hell?
This is from the Scientific American. 8 billion people in the world is a crisis, not an achievement.
Oh, come on.
Okay?
Yeah, go talk to India. Morality suggests we should stop having them. Children suggest you should keep doing it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's just, this is what they have been pumped. And I was told this growing up. Remember in school, we have peak oil, overpopulation. It's a problem. The earth can't sustain this. We're running out of resources. Turns out that's not true. And turns out the more people you have, the more effective you can be. Certainly in the first world with resources because of technological advancements. Just think of how much more we can get done with fewer people now as well. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, from a Christian perspective, at least in this country, be fruitful and multiply. But this is something that kids have been bombarded with for a very long time. Hey, Go out and be a boss babe. Why don't men want to marry a boss babe at 35 and start having a family? Why are they picking 25-year-olds who chose to display a skill set that would sort of display capability and motherhood and nurture? Crap.
Because 25 is an easier time to have kids than 35?
Yeah, that's exactly.
You got more energy?
Trust me. I'm with you at 45 with 305. I'm like, woo!
You have a window that men don't, and that means you have a choice and you have less time to make it.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? And we are at a point where your moral imperative, if you are a Christian conservative in this country, is to ditch the boss babe shit and to have kids. And you know what? A lot of men are scared too, just to be clear. That's also the byproduct of feminism. A lot of men are scared because of the laws in this country, because of the expectations where they're going, I don't want to be working all day and then also have to be Mr. Mom. Because we didn't used to have that. You had a division of labor. So you add on top of that, by the way, young women, be a boss babe. And it's men's fault if men don't like what you've become, guess what? We'll change their perspective. We'll tell them that they should want a 35-year-old CEO, and we'll tell them that he shouldn't care if you're 350 pounds. Get a seatbelt extender. The rest will figure itself out. Also, one final note. Even if you do get married, don't have children because you'll destroy the earth. Right. That's the cultural messaging.
Basically, like, there's scientific consensus
Basically.
that the lives of children are going to be very difficult. And it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. You know, is it okay to still have children?
They're always doing that shit. You know, if everybody went vegan, the air would be, if everybody drove an electric car, if everybody just had some snowshoes on, right? They just won't come out and say it. Nobody has the balls to come out and say it and just say, look, 85% of you have to go.
You basically say, we just need to live long and die out. We just need to feed, not breed. Is that what you say?
Feed them, don't breed them. We're not taking care of the people who are already here. My plan is for everyone to think before they procreate. And if we all stop procreating, we'll go extinct slowly. We can clean up our messes as we go. And the biosphere, what's left of it, will have a chance to recover.
Climate anxiety. They're concerned about their future in almost a doomsday fear. They're concerned about whether they should have children, whether they should even try and buy a home, because what does the future hold for that prospect?
It's all fear, to be clear. And again, to really be laser focused on this, feminism is antinatalist, environmentalism is anti-human. Why would you take advice from any of these people on how to raise a family or how to preserve the human race? Feminism and environmentalism has not made women any happier. It's not made our society any stronger. It certainly hasn't helped women who find themselves at 35 years old buying into the lie after a window has closed. I know that there are miracles, and I'm not saying all women. I get that some people can't conceive. And then they wonder, hold on a second, where are the prospects? Where did they go to? The kind of man that I want, why are they not interested in me? It hasn't made them any better off.
We've known this for so long. I don't know why. Like, women are kind of new to the game of being lied to on this, right? Within the last, say, 100 years, right? That you can go, and it's obviously much more recent than that is really when it's picked up. But like this lie that this is where you're going to find happiness.
Yeah,
it's just not there. Especially when you give the option of like you have the ability to have the ultimate happiness. Now, again, we said this when we talked about Megyn Kelly. We're not talking about the can'ts. Haven't found a man, can't have children. Got it. Understand that's. It's a very difficult situation. It's not what we're addressing. We're addressing like throwing away that opportunity. My wife went and saw, you remember the new Barbie movie?
Yeah.
She went and saw it with some of the family members who wanted to go see it. They didn't really have any understanding of like, it's just Barbie. They're going to go see it, whatever.
Yeah.
And she said immediately, like the opening scene is them like smashing the dolls, like the babies.
Yeah.
And she was just like, I couldn't do it. No, like, because it's basically preaching like basically give up that.
They say like, oh, you have kids, say goodbye to your life. It's just
like,
it's just not true. And it's just because everyone wants to be a martyr.
There's a difference too between saying, yeah, it's okay for you to go out and have a career, and then saying you shouldn't stay at home. You have to go have a career.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have any more babies. Stop having babies.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between encouraging the absence of babies and abortion, really.
Yeah, of course. That's
and just saying, you have a choice to go out and work and never have a family and never settle down. No one's going to want you. Well, you can do that.
You're right. Well, that is true, though. That is true. Now, you'll find guys who will bed you. You'll find guys who will bang you. Like MILF, I'm not being critical. MILF is a thing for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not the same as a guy who wants to settle down and have a family. Look, we talk about role models. We talk about examples. Okay, if we are below replacement rates with our birth rate, and you say we need role models for young men and young women, in what world would that role model be a barren boss babe? Because that's been our role model. Noodles.
Right. I was just going to say, speaking of the rules for thee, not for me, we go back to the whole transparency idea. How many of these big environmentalists, the Ted Turners, the Bill Gates, don't have children?
Right.
It's not about they don't want children. They don't want you to have children.
Right.
No, it's 100% true.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I was at a TED Talk, one of the remote locations where you could just watch it with a group of people, and they were talking and celebrating this chart where they're saying, like, we're getting people's birth rates down in these different regions of Africa and Asia and other places. And they were celebrating the family sizes shrinking as though that was a very positive thing. And I just...
That's sad. That's so sad.
A pastor friend of ours was there with us, not the one you're thinking of, but another one who we like. And he...
We have some pastor friends. The problem is now I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yes. He was there with me, and we were shocked. We were just like, what is this? Is like propaganda. And everybody's just lapping it up. Like, yeah, that's exactly right. These people will be happier and better off if they have fewer children. And look, there is this idea that since, like...
You're such a prick.
I know. Since 1850 to 1950, we've had a huge decrease, right? Yes, right. But we got to a certain point, and then something happened where we said, let's go to extinction level. Not species, culture. Yeah. That's the replacement rate we're talking about. Your culture ceases to exist. The way you do things ceases to exist if you don't have enough children. I like the idea of incentives sometimes for that. I'm a little on the fence about this. I know that Vance talked about tax credits.
It doesn't always work.
Really loves it.
It doesn't always work. That's my problem.
He's going to get that black woman vote.
Well, it does.
Well, it's a little different.
You tell me I'm going to get $5,000 every time I have a kid.
But that's popping them out. I can do this. That's my problem with it. It doesn't address the root cause.
Yeah. No, you're right.
We're heading that way as a society, and you need to fix that more than you need to just give out money for people.
But it is kind of a bat signal where it's saying, hey, look, guys, we have a problem, because for the longest time, at least as I was growing up, and you guys can comment below, Generation Z, I'm a millennial right there, kind of in the middle. If you grew up with, hey, peak oil, if you grew up with, overpopulation, because when you grow up with that, it's in your subconscious where you're going, well, I guess, kids are really expensive. It's just let you know, kids are not that expensive. Like, kids are really hard. They're not that hard. Now, it's difficult. It's an important job. I would say this.
It's selfless
The importance job of raising children far exceeds its difficulty level. So when people say it's the hardest job in the world to be a stay-at-home mom, it's not. It's one of the most important jobs in the world. You would certainly rather be home with some tykes than you would be building the Empire State Building. Where like, you got 8 months. Get on it. Bring your lunch pail up there. So let's just be clear about it. And the messaging, the cultural messaging, has been a real problem, and it's also been dishonest. What do TikTok nurses, COVID lockdowns, and lesbian school teachers have in common? None of them will be included in this next video if you click it. It's the internet. It's a cruel, dark place. I can't promise you the world, but today I can offer you that. And isn't that a step in the right direction?